Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Let's do this, chat. Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Guys, once again, I'm your host, Ashton Forbes. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting everything. So tonight, we're going to talk about MH370. Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, the plane that disappeared on March 8th, 2014, 11 years ago. And tonight, we are going to talk about the theories related to the missing airliner. I want to address all the possible theories, the main theories that are out there, at least the ones that are worth addressing. And I want to go over some of the evidence related to them, and also the evidence that kind of refutes or questions some of them as well. We're going to look at a couple of videos too tonight from Jeff Wise and from Richard Godfrey. There is new evidence. Well, spoiler alert, guys, I'm not one who likes to make people wait to the end. Here's the spoiler alert for tonight. They didn't find anything. The ship has already been searching, and it's now going back to port, and that indicates that at least the first phase of the search failed. If it had found anything, the news would have broke immediately, and they would have been announcing that they found something, right? So there you go. Spoiler alert. Ashton was right. Turns out Ashton's going to end up being right. They were never going to find the plane down in the South Indian Ocean. Okay. So you know what? I just want to get started, I think, by showing the Jeff Wise video right off the bat. That way the people that join late don't have to watch it. One sec. Where is it? Huh. Weird. Sorry, chat. I'm just realizing that I was looking at it on my phone and I didn't save it. I have to search his YouTube now. Here we go. Okay. So with Jeff Wise, everything is hoax this, hoax that, you know. Watching Jeff Wise is funny because when I watch his stuff, it makes me realize that I could never be as sanctimonious as Jeff Wise is, you know? Like, for him, it's just, if it's not NPC authority approved, then it's just not real. And he is so angry that other people get more attention than him. It's so obvious. So I'm just going to skip in a couple minutes right away. I am pointing out here, this is where they're searching. You know, they basically searched his entire arc. Okay, so here we go. We're going to listen to a little bit of Jeff Wise here.
Peter Waring emailed me to correct me. Actually, it was a different contractor. It was Phoenix International. Thank you, Peter, for that correction. Phoenix International. But anyway, now that they've examined all the data gaps that we discussed in our
it's funny that Peter Waring is the one that's emailing Jeff Wise, because he's the one that he was one of the original searchers, I think, with the Australian Navy, I believe. And he admitted in the 10-year anniversary that he was wondering if they were finding nothing, why maybe they were like searching in the wrong spot. Like something maybe, because look, you're expecting to find a missing airplane. There should be pieces everywhere and you're finding nothing. You're going to have second guess, starting to second guess it.
Previous episode, and presumably found that the plane was not resting in any of them. That leaves the question of where they'll look next. The answer is that they will probably search these two rectangular areas further away from the seventh arc. I'll explain the rationale for doing that.
So what Jeff Wise is saying here, and here's the thing about Jeff, is that you can't say he's dumb. I mean, he's just NPC. Like, he's pointing out here correctly that if they're going back to port, they've finished at least one part of the search. And let's be honest, if they'd found the plane or whatever, they would have brought it up right away. They would have said something right away. So now they're going to search in the less likely zones or whatever, right? Okay, well, great. They're not going to find it still. So now is probably, like, if you guys don't realize, like, this new search, it's only going to be for like a month or two. They're not going to be out there for like a year. They're going to search a couple areas and that's going to be it. $70 million if they find it, and they won't.
In my next episode. For now, I want to talk about the latest disinformation campaign that's underway concerning MH370. It's really quite exasperating. I don't want to give it.
Why do I feel like when Jeff Wise brings up disinformation campaign, why do I feel like Rachel Maddow from MSNBC is talking to me? Why does it feel like Joy Reid is speaking through Jeff Wise at me? Oh, yeah, because he retweets Joy Reid all the time. Well, she lost her job now, but this is where just Jeff gets really weird, right? Let's just recap. Malaysian Airlines disappeared 11 years ago on Friday. In 3 days, 11 years. They never found anything. 3 searches, never found anything. The third search is happening right now. The most expensive and extensive searches in human history found nothing. Nothing. Complete and total failures. No one has any damn idea what happened to the plane. The official report for the plane is they don't know it. The plane just disappeared. And the reason why it is that specifically is because then nobody's at fault. If the plane crashed, then Boeing could potentially be at fault because they're the manufacturer. So because the official report is that the plane just disappeared, Boeing couldn't be held liable. Do you see the game that's being played here? Like, if you don't think that there's manipulation at every level of this case, there absolutely is. So people are just speculating, but for some reason, there's gatekeeping going on. Even in this scenario where impossibly a plane disappeared 11 years ago without a trace, it still is not found to this day. People are gatekeeping ideas. These certain people's ideas are not worthy enough to be platformed. To me, that's just absolutely mind-blowing. I've been thinking back. I don't think I've ever, maybe in my whole life, certainly not since I've been an influencer, ever even thought to tell somebody, don't platform that person. Do you know why? Because even the people that I disagree with, I want those people to be platformed so their ideas can be exposed to scrutiny. Because it's fun to watch people argue back and forth about their ideas and to see ideas that don't hold up to scrutiny fall apart. That's the whole point. But I want it to be honest scrutiny, not dishonest, gotcha stuff. Like really breaking down the facts and getting to the ultimate truth, because that's the whole point. So when people are out there arguing that you are like disinfo or you shouldn't be platformed, that is super weird to me. Really weird to me, because I've never thought about that about anybody, not about Jeff Wise or anyone else. I think, okay, if they get to go on CNN, great. I don't care. I'm not even jealous. Makes no sense, no difference to me whatsoever in my life. Let's go ahead and play this.
too much oxygen by dwelling on it, but I also don't want to just ignore it and let people think that I take it seriously. Now, as anyone who's followed this case for any amount of time will know, there's a ridiculous amount of disinformation being spread. And unfortunately, it's being spread in many cases by influential people with a lot of reach. Suspect number one, Ashton Forbes, with his cartoonishly idiotic UFOs absconding with MH370 through an interdimensional portal. I covered him in season 2, episode 13 with David Dunbar. I still get tons of comments saying, hey, you should check out this Ashton guy. He knows what happened to the plane. No, he doesn't. The whole thing is made up from whole cloth, and it's silly. It's ridiculous. It doesn't bear even the slightest resemblance to reality. But there's another character out there who actually seems to have.
Where do we begin with this? Okay, first of all, if we're actually just like chalking up the score on MH370, I've only been involved in MH370 for 1 year, 2 years, whatever, 1.5 years, let's call it. Let's split the difference. You've been involved for 11 years since the very beginning. I've only ever pushed one thing, which is the truth, and I will be proven correct. Let me state this again, Jeff. I'm going to go full screen here. I will be proven correct. Those videos are what happened to MH370. That is what happened. I don't know how exactly to say it to really reach people so that it resonates, so that people can start to absorb it and realize that that's our reality. But the person who's actually responsible for the most disinformation, if you were to ask basically anyone who's knowledgeable about MH370, they're going to say the person responsible for the most disinformation is Jeff Wise, number one offender. It's inarguable he's the number one offender. He's the one responsible for why people think it was a suicidal pilot, because he pushed the misinformation that the pilot's like simulator data matched up with the route. That was all bullshit. That was all literally made up from whole cloth, like Jeff Wise just said. He literally made that up from whole cloth. It turned out it was just MH370. He was practicing that route because he was scheduled to fly on it. This was confirmed by the FBI and the officials. Jeff Wise is a liar and literally made up lies. He's the one responsible. On this planet, no one is responsible for more misinformation about MH370 than Jeff Wise. That's an absolute fact. So what I would say to Jeff is, take yourself way off your high horse, brother. You're the guy that believes the plane flew to Russia. You believe that one Russian guy on the plane means that somehow Russia was responsible for it, despite there being like no one saying that. No one, not even the United States, is blaming Russia. That the plane flew over multiple countries that are not allied to Russia, that would be in radar range and would have seen the plane and just said nothing and let it happen. That it landed somewhere in an airport with all the people on board and nobody said anything. Nobody saw a commercial airplane landing. Right? Like, you're that guy that thinks that's what makes most sense to you. Do you really have any right, or, I mean, how can you possibly talk down to anybody else? Even Don Lemon with the black hole in the airplane makes more sense than that. Let's just be honest. And then I want to say as well is that it's 11 years later. At some point, you have to break outside of this paradigm that there's going to be a normal explanation. There's no normal explanation for what happened to an airplane that is inexplicably missing for 11 years. We have to start looking at non-normal explanations at this point. Okay, I think that's enough for ripping into Jeff. No, actually, there's one more thing. There's one more. Jeff Wise, his behavior is the problem here. And you're going to see more of it on display here. The behavior is the problem. This idea that we have to not platform people we disagree with. Just realize this. Realize I'm right about what happened to the plane. It's not a matter of I made something up. There are 2 leaked videos. I know the guy that leaked the videos. He changed his name after I identified him. I mean, come on, man. The videos are real. And you're telling people not to platform me, the guy telling people the truth. And that truth exposes the U.S. government. What does that make Jeff Wise look like to anybody with a brain? It makes him look like a paid shill. In fact, I wonder what the hell is Jeff Wise's job? How does he actually make money? It's not from YouTube. It's not from social media. Certainly not. I also want to point out when we're talking about opportunities or like influence, I've never been on mainstream media ever. Nothing. Never once. Not CNN, not Fox News, nothing. Never one time ever. I've been on over 100 podcasts in person, whatever. I've been on Coast to Coast AM multiple times. I've never once even been invited onto a mainstream TV station channel, ever. Does that sound like opportunity? No, it sounds like hard-ass work. You know how hard it is to, as a man, as a nerdy guy, a dime a dozen, to build up a social media following based on science in 2025? This is playing on hard mode. This is playing on legendary survival hardcore one-shot mode. You don't get more opportunity. You don't get less opportunity than that scenario. Being Jeff Wise, you just get to go on CNN as much as you want, and you're just angry because you lost your shine like 8 years ago, and nobody cares about what you have to say anymore. And now you want to reach that high again about where everybody cared about you every day and what you say. Well, the sad reality, Jeff Wise, your legacy is going to be one of failure. It's going to be one of abject failure. And people are going to look back at those early times and go, the reason why we didn't solve the plane early on is because we had idiots like Jeff Wise on CNN instead of smart people who can just think logically like Ashton Forbes. Because if I was on CNN, we would have been getting the right answers from the U.S. government when the plane disappeared. Okay, let's keep going. We'll let him go now.
Have some chops and is actually taken seriously by people with authority and reach. His name is Richard Godfrey. I've talked about him numerous times, really, especially in season 2, episode 25. He, like me, was one of the original members of the independent group. And like me, he was kicked out. But unlike me, I think he really...
Okay. So I guess when Jeff says taken seriously, he means that like Sky News Australia, every once in a while when they have an MH370 thing and they feel bad, they have Richard Godfrey come on, and he usually is dressed in like gym clothes. If that's what you mean by taken seriously, then I don't know. Or they're doing a fraudulent search based on his research that can't find planes. I mean, sure. You know, if that's what you think taken seriously is, but I don't consider that to be that serious. But what I will say is that I don't care about, as long as people are out there searching, like I'm not jealous. I'm glad that people are searching, because then people can see that these other theories don't make any sense and they don't work. Like when we don't find anything again, where the guy is saying we're gonna find it here, my magical whisper analysis says the plane's gonna be found right here. When we don't find it, great. I love that. So also I want to point out both of these guys are full of shit. Now, and I think they both believe their own bullshit. I mean, that's the thing about bullshitters, you know, they believe their own bullshit. And if anybody can prove that my videos are wrong, then you'll absolutely be right. Then I'll believe my own bullshit. Jeff Wise, okay, we already dealt with why he's full of shit. But Richard Godfrey believes that if you don't understand Whisper, he came up with something called Whisper. And the idea is this. He believes that there are these radio pings that were tracked historically at certain sites around the globe. And that if you know where a plane was at a certain point, you can reverse engineer the radio signal from it. And from that point forward, predict its movements and then find appropriate radio signals and try to track a plane that way. That's what the Whisper analysis is doing. That was the first thing that I read when I first researched the plane about 1.5 years ago. And it's very long. I can't remember how many pages, but a lot. And it goes through the way that he tried to track it and find candidate signals for his next hop, basically. Now, there's some huge problems with the methodology, but I want to point out before this that the PhD physicist that invented or figured out this whisper thing said it can't be used to track planes, probably for the same reason I'm going to tell you it can't be used to track planes. This is just me as a normal person logically thinking about it. You've got these pings out there, but the problem is you're basically playing a game of telephone. So you are reverse engineering and making assumptions about the location of the plane and then determining, okay, this ping must have been that when the plane was there. The problem is that for every time you do a hop, you're going to have some error. That error is going to compound. Every time you hop, you have more and more error. Now, the problem is you're doing hundreds and hundreds of hops here. So even very quickly, you're going to hit a huge amount of error. And what Richard Godfrey would say is, well, I'm matching it up to the Inmarsat pings. That's how I'm determining where the plane is. Well, the problem is if the plane was never actually there and those Inmarsat pings were not accurate, then that means all the whisper data analysis is all just bullshit, all just nonsense. And that's sadly what it's going to turn out to be. And that's how I knew that there was no chance they were going to find the plane where Richard Godfrey says the plane is going to be. Because Richard Godfrey believes that the whisper or the Inmarsat pings are that's his saving grace to avoid basically him just otherwise reading the tea leaves, so to speak. Because otherwise, that's essentially what he's doing. There are bigger problems with the whisper data, but I'm going to let this play for another couple of minutes because he does explain some of this, what's going on here with the plane. So give me a second.
Who don't understand what they're doing. Given all that, you would think that Godfrey by now would have slunk away with his tail between his legs, but no. We live in an age of truly shameless liars. And Godfrey's gotten considerable traction, no less than the ATSB itself, the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, has spent considerable resources commissioning that report I described last week, in which Australian government scientists looked at the seabed data for the place where Godfrey claims the plane went. And extremely influential aviation bloggers like Mentor Pilot have bought Godfrey's tail, hook, line, and sinker, and spread this nonsense to millions of viewers on YouTube. So I really think few people have done as much to confuse the public and spread fog over the topic of MH370. And I have no idea why he's doing it. I don't think he's getting rich off of it. Maybe it's just for the attention. I don't know. But I very much hope that Ocean Infinity does go to check out the area where he says the plane went, just to prove that he's wrong. I rather suspect that they won't, because they probably don't want to just waste their money, but who knows? All of that is context for what Godfrey is saying now. He said it today on Jeffrey Thomas's podcast. Thomas, by the way, is a longtime co-conspirator.
Okay. So if you don't like the attitude of Jeff Wise, well, great. Neither do I. I think he's kind of a dickhead, and it's probably why nobody really watches him. I try to keep it a little bit cheerier, but we're addressing all the theories that are out there, and we're going to get to them. I'm giving you guys the background here. The first theory that is out there is the suicide suicide ditching crashing theory. So this one is a splinter theory. This is the most predominant theory that's out there. This theory is based on the Inmarsat pings. It believes that the plane went into the South Indian Ocean based on those pings, and that somehow the plane ran out of fuel in the South Indian Ocean and crashed. Okay. This is the number one theory that's out there. Most of the quote unquote experts believe that this is what happened to the plane. The number one problem with this, no debris field. No debris field. This is it. This is all you have to say. This destroys the theory of no debris field. There's no such thing as a plane crashing into the ocean without leaving a massive debris field visible from space, visible from satellites. So if we didn't find a debris field, it's not possible for that plane to have crashed down there somewhere. Again, like the problem here is it's 2014. We're not in an age now where like we're just like taking, photos anymore that are like paper, normal photographs. We've got everything's digitized now. So you could just go back and you could have gone back to the time when the plane would have crashed there and you would have, checked your satellites within 24 hours at the absolute most. If they didn't have perfect coverage already, they would have seen the crash site. So a splinter theory was formed. A splinter theory was formed because of this obvious logical flaw that there's no chance the plane could have crashed without leaving a debris field. And as somebody just pointed out in the chat, there also was no seismic recording of the plane crashing as well, which we would have 100% heard. There's a Cardiff University report that was published in 2024 that shows that it would have created between a 2 and a 3 on the Richter scale equivalent force, depending on how fast or slow it was going when it hit the ocean. So the splinter theory was formed by a different group. And all these people, some of them agree, they hate each other, whatever. It's a lot of drama, like there always is. That, the pilot, they ditched the plane. They didn't crash the plane, they ditched the plane. And yeah, I do want to point out that, yes, wouldn't all the foam seats float up to the surface? Yes. So even if the plane did do what we're about to say here, you've already just debunked the next one, which is they then tried to claim, okay, well, the pilot was after this, he's going to kill himself, but he decided he wants to die in the worst possible way. Not instantly, but he's decided he wants to freeze to death going underwater in the plane with the most amount of time to think about what he did. And he somehow smoothly lands the plane on the surface of the ocean with no fuel left in it also, while the engines are burning out. Smoothly lands it on the ocean surface and then sinks down into the water perfectly intact. That's the only way they could rationalize how we didn't see it from outer space. Now, why is that absurd? Well, first of all, you're not going to be able to land like that. First of all, the psychology of it makes no sense whatsoever from somebody trying to end their life. That is not how it would go out. And basically all suicide scenarios, they're trying to do it instantly. Because the more you have to think about it, the more you want to change your mind. So it's usually the opposite of that. The other problem is that you're not going to be able to land the plane on the ocean like that. You can't land the plane on the ocean like that. This was actually brought up, I believe, in the CNN interview with the guy who died on the Titan sub before he died, that the swells are too large in the ocean. The plane, the Boeing 777 is too large of a plane. So the moment one of those wings hits one of the swells, you're going to see like what happened with that plane in Canada. Was it in Canada? I think it was. Maybe Alaska. A few weeks ago, where the plane spun upside down and was upside down or whatever. You would have seen that happen. And then the third problem is even if you managed to perfectly somehow miracle Sully Sullenberger the plane in the ocean, which is way different than the Hudson River, a lot more turbulent, and then sink it, at some point that plane's going to crack in half in the ocean just from the pressure. It's going to crack in half. And when it cracks in half, all the flotation devices, everything that can float, the luggage is going to float up to the surface. And there would be a huge, massive debris field of it. It would have been luggage, flotation devices. But instead, we didn't find any of that. Not only was there not a debris field, but when debris finally washed ashore a year and a half later, debris was found a year and a half later, year and a half later, none of it was any inflated. Nothing was like flotation devices or anything that was could really float. It was just random pieces of the plane, like Rolls-Royce engine cowling, or in one case, a giant flap, which is like a 7-foot long flapper on one of the sides of one of the wings, which, by the way, is not required to fly or to land. So these theories are the prevalent theories is that this plane went in the South Indian Ocean. And the main argument against it is there's no corroboration for the Inmarsat pings. In fact, SITA is the data download company, and they, as far as I know, did not corroborate the Inmarsat data, which is like, is the system online? The big question is this. Well, how to word this? This is kind of a change of subject, but that's fine. Let's change the subject for a second. The claim is that the plane went dark. The satellite transmitter lost power when this plane went dark over the South China Sea. Let me share the video of this. We need video for this chat. So the claim is that here, when this plane goes dark over the South China Sea, that either somebody turned off the transponder or there was an emergency event that took out the electronics on this plane. And that here, this is the part where we should have lost data. If the power is off on the plane, we shouldn't be getting data. And they claimed, okay, well, yeah, we weren't getting data, but the data was still storing. It was still saving. And then what they claimed is a little bit after where we're going to see this plane go to here to the west, a little bit after where it gets right here, all of a sudden, the computer system turned back on. What? The computer system turned back on all of a sudden? So you're taking this plane, you're flying it away, you're hijacking it or whatever's going on, and now the computer system turned back on conveniently, and now all of a sudden it's sending data again? Now all of a sudden at 18:25 UTC, the plane is suddenly, all of a sudden, they turn the computer back on? Why would you do that? So that they can track you? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And so that's the data that leads us to the South Indian Ocean. So conveniently, the pilot turned back on the tracking system. In the scenario where this was a pilot suicide, they turned the tracking system back on, flew to the South Indian Ocean so they could be tracked, so that we would know where to go. But then there was nothing there. Then they made it so that we couldn't find the plane. If they didn't want us to find the plane, why wouldn't they just leave the tracking system off? Why would you turn it back on? They found a way to turn off the main computer. Why would you turn it back on again? This is a huge, huge flaw in any theory about the South Indian Ocean that is not addressed at all. If you think the pilot did it, you got to explain what they turned the computer back on to allow themselves to be tracked. What do you just conveniently to tell us where they were going? Oh, and it turns out after 11 years and 3 searches, we never found anything in there. At some point, it's kind of like when the criminal runs past or whatever, and the guy goes, which way did he go? And it turns out it's the criminal's friend, and he goes, that way. He went that way. And you're like, why are you looking at me like that with a smile? He went that way. Oh, okay. That guy can't be lying to me. He must have gone that way. I'm going to go over there. Of course, there's nothing there. I want to address this. You don't need to spam in all chat. Normally, I would not. If you spam in all chat, normally I don't promote your message, but they are not going to drop the plane in the Indian. They could not do this. No, they cannot do this. If you think they could drop a full plane in the ocean, you have not thought through exactly what we're talking about here. You need to really think through the details of just think about all the small things that could be wrong based on what we already know. There's no way they dropped the plane. I've been consistent about this from the very beginning. They're not going to plant the plane. There's no planting of evidence. They're just not going to find anything. I've said it from the very beginning. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to let this play here. I got to let the girl in. 1 sec. Here we go. Okay.
And fellow spreader of MH370 misinformation, a man named Martin Smith, flying across the Indian on the night that MH370 disappeared. An Emirates Airbus A380 flying north from Melbourne to Dubai was flying across the Indian Ocean when it spotted MH370 flying the other way. And the captain, a man named Martin Smith, has just now, 11 years later, decided to come forward and tell his story. All right. So, does this story make any sense?
Okay. Wow. So that was the new evidence, huh? I didn't know that. So, not even that many people pinged me about this. So, if you think that this is reaching a lot of people, I want to point out, like, I get pinged 50 times more on any Joe Rogan thing related to science than I do about whatever this new evidence was. And apparently, this is a pretty crazy claim here. Is this the one? Some guy who was flying UAE 407, supposedly that night, from Melbourne to Dubai, I think, is now out of nowhere claiming that he saw the plane at 5:01 a.m. His flight does go this direction, but by the time at 5:01 a.m., I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't know the conversion, pretty sure the plane's going to be past him. But here's the rub with this. How would this get no traction for 11 years? Guys, when there's new evidence that comes out right now, 11 years later, you got to be really, 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 really skeptical. Really skeptical. This was the biggest story in the world. And the biggest mystery in the world. You could have been on every TV show you wanted to be on. Everyone's like, to try to, like, you're trying to do the right thing for the right people, like Catherine T, who reports it right away, makes herself available for questions. You don't just come out 11 years later and be like, oh, yeah, I saw a light, and that was MH370. Bro, do you see any identifying features? Do you have communication with the plane? Anything? In Catherine T's situation, you can see a plane on fire, glowing orange, with smoke coming out of the back of it. And emergency event is a very plausible event for what happened to the plane. So what is there to say? So I dug into it a little bit, this argument here that's being made. And supposedly people are kind of going back and forth. They're trying to debunk the guy. You know, it's like, for me, I'm like, look, man, you don't have any proof that you saw the plane anyway. You don't even have a strong claim. His argument is that he, like, looked down at, like, this tracking system and he didn't see anything. And then he looked up and he saw this light and he thought, oh, well, that must be MH370 then. He probably just saw a UFO. He probably just saw an orb. Probably just saw a plasma orb. But the point being that that's not proof that you saw MH370. It's not even close. Not even close. I mean, you might have just saw nothing. You might have just been confused when you looked at the screen. Who knows? Could be anything. You didn't even identify it as MH370. You're just assuming that it was. So this is the part where the question here is sensationalism. Is it too far to sensationalize that you have new evidence or what have you? Honestly, guys, sensationalism is not going away. I've been guilty of it myself. I think that we got to let that one go. But at the same time, the reality of the evidence is that it's this new sighting does not confirm anything. And I think that if anything, it's probably just a face saving mechanism by Richard Godfrey for when they don't find the plane. So he can be like, yeah, well, they didn't find it in the exact place I told them to search, but like, no, this other guy says the plane went down there. Totally believe me, guys. Totally believe me. I just need to do some more analyses and find a new spot. Right. That's what I think is going on with that. Okay. Let's see here. I think there's one more thing I wanted to watch on this, and then I won't make you guys suffer anymore.
It does not make any sense that you would even look at your TCAS screen. Planes, air traffic control, but he doesn't mention it to anybody. MH370,
yeah.
booking God.
Oh, okay. No, we're gonna listen to this last part.
Let me know what you think. Actually, let me know in the comments if I'm just going too far, if I'm being too mean to Richard Godfrey. But in the meantime, I have a request. This is my request. This is what I would like. I want anyone who might watch my show and wonder if they should also listen to Godfrey and Thomas, stop paying attention to these people. And to all you TV producers out there, stop booking Godfrey on your show. Stop booking Thomas on your show. ATSB, stop telling people that Godfrey is a credible authority and stop investigating his claims. Stop being such dummies. All right, that is my rant for the day. For now, we'll have to wait a bit as Armada 7806 gets refueled and restocked and recrewed. Pretty soon, it will be back making its way westwards, and we'll learn.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel, Jeff Wise. That is, man. You know what? I thought, like, hey, should I rant on Jeff Wise after that? Like, feels like he kind of leaves himself open to it. I just feel bad for him. I just kind of feel bad for him, chat. I would just say, like, you should listen to everybody. You should listen to everybody out there. You should want everybody to be platformed. The only people afraid of discussion and ideas are people whose ideas can't withstand scrutiny. And I have a feeling that that's the problem with Jeff Wise, is that his ideas can't withstand scrutiny. And I think that he doesn't deal with conflict well. And so, like, he can't really deal with a debate situation, right? Because his arguments always just go to appeal to authority. And that's really kind of boring, right? So I don't know. End of the day, the pilot suicide, ditching, crashing scenario, there's just no evidence for it. There's one more clip I want to show before we put that theory to bed, which is this one here. Please hope I better have the right one this time. Okay, I think I do. Oh, let me do some super chats, guys. William Bill, thank you, brother, for the super chat and being with me. So great to still be by your side, Ashton. Yeah, you guys are awesome. It's a little tougher each week, but I'm still here. We don't stop talking. Yeah, and don't feel obligated. Don't feel obligated. Do whatever you want to do. I'm doing whatever I want to do as well. It's how you should live through life. Marcano, thanks for pointing out Musk's all access lie. I can't get over that. If you haven't checked that clip out, check it out. Because he just either is an idiot or he lied. There's no way about it. I don't think he's an idiot. So he just lied. How can Musk say I have all access? All access? It's not how clearances work. That's not how they work. I know. I've had one. I don't get it. What is he talking about? That's just a weird ass thing to say. And it's bizarre because I do get that a lot. You get that a lot from a lot of normie people that are like, oh, well, I've had a clearance and I didn't see anything, so nothing exists. Or the people that are like, oh, I was at Diego Garcia and I didn't see anything. It's a totally normal place. Like, well, if you were involved in any of that stuff, you wouldn't be allowed to talk about it. In fact, you might be legally required to lie about it. So you shouldn't ever say anything like, oh, it's just totally normal. You wouldn't know. Exactly. How would he know? So bizarre. Okay, so I saw this video of Richard Godfrey. In fact, guys, I've never actually come down hard on Richard Godfrey before because I just think he's kind of like an old guy that's like trying to do the right thing. And he was, trying to take a technical approach to it. Did it fail? Yes, because this whisper analysis. Let me pull it up. Is this it? Yeah. Crap. Here we go. This whisper analysis was just basically grasping at straws. Now, can I zoom in on this? Nope. What does this do? And this website needs a little help too. Okay, there we go. That's perfect. You can see that this flight path is pretty much correct until you get to the part here where it says first arc. See where it says first arc at the top of the screen? That's where, you know how I tell you guys that if you just draw a straight line from the last radar point, that first arc is the last radar point, basically. And if you just drew a straight line from those radar points, you basically run across the coordinates in the Nicobar Islands. Now, as you can see from this image, the vast majority of people think that the plane flew around the coast of Indonesia, south. Now, here's the problem with this analysis. That he thinks that he's doing this tracking where he's tracking these radar pings and matching them up to the satellite pings. And he thinks that this is the track the plane went on. The first problem is he might just be putting together unrelated pings that are not MH370. That's the first problem. And that's what he's actually really doing here. That's what's actually happening is he's just literally putting together radio pings that don't, not radar, radio pings that don't actually match up together and pretending like they do. Okay. But here's the kicker. Okay, so after the plane turns south near the first arc, you can see it goes to the right, and then it goes back. It goes left, right, left. You guys see that left, right, left from between the first arc and the second arc. Where it turns left at the bottom, between first arc and second arc, where it turns the last left it does there, left, right, left. Richard Godfrey says that this 90-degree turn is consistent with the pilot looking behind him to see if anyone was following him. I'm not making that up. Between the first and second arc, that 90-degree turn, he says, well, this is the pilot looking to see if anyone was following him. Okay, now we're just doing like a spy novel thing here, right? Why would the pilot do this weird 90-degree turn? That's not how you fly an airplane. You don't fly an airplane like you're driving a car. Like Richard Godfrey literally thinks you drive around and you fly around in an airplane like you're driving a car. This is not how this works at all, dude. Okay, then the big problem was, where is it? Somewhere, I think, somewhere around where it says second arc. So you guys see the second arc? Somewhere around there, or maybe to the left of the second arc. This is where Richard Godfrey thinks, and this is all 100% real, by the way, guys. I'm not making any of this up. This is where Richard Godfrey believes that the plane did a 20 to 25 minute holding pattern, that it just spun around in the air for 20 to 25 minutes. And why does he think that? Because he couldn't find any candidate signals that would allow him to keep going on the track that he was trying to build. You get what I'm saying? Like, so it's obvious that he got to a certain point and he realized, oh, this isn't working. And like, oh, I need, 25-minute gap and then we'll be good again. Which at that point, you have no credibility anymore on your thing. You're literally just making shit up at that point. And then I don't know why the plane would be doing all these cut back and forths as well. Makes no damn sense. And then at the end to claim that like the direction the plane was going when it was like going towards the ground, like all this, there's no chance in hell. You're not interpreting any of that from radio pings that for 8 hours of radio pings that you're trying to relay together. No way. So, but Richard Godfrey, I think he's a good person. I just think that he tried something new. We should try all new things. It turns out, look, they did a search based on it. It was wrong. But I hope that these people will do the same courtesy to the truth. Because the truth is that the United States Navy zapped the plane with some orbs and the MH370 videos are real. That's the truth. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to believe it. The truth doesn't really care if you can believe it or, what have you. That's what happened because we're literally looking at it, multiple videos. We're just literally staring at it. They're in perfect sync. Nobody faked military videos like this. No one even knew what the video on the top left was until we figured it out. So there's certainly no way somebody could have faked a video that nobody knew what it even was. Right? So it's going to take people like Richard Godfrey, Godfrey Thomas, whatever his name, Geoffrey Thomas, Jeff Wise. It's going to take them a long time to come to accept this reality. But I would ask at a minimum, don't tell people not to platform me, because this is the actual truth. The stuff that you guys are pushing, that's the disinformation and misinformation. That's the fake bullshit. That's the reason why you have no results. The reason why you keep failing over and 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 over again with all your searches and everything is because your data is bullshit. You get it? That's why you're failing. So the pilot suicide, the problem with the narrative of the pilot suicide, to take it full circle, there's no evidence to support it. The claim right around here. Hold on. Switch this video up.
Have been driving the continuation of the search. If it wasn't for those three groups, which one you might like to have a look here as soon as you open up the page. But
to the Captain Martin Smith's observation, and we've had many viewers questioning whether this is real. You know what? By Captain Martin Smith.
Hold on. God. They did a bunch of videos. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is the one. Okay. So the big question here, I guess I'm just going
to... Those generally use... questions repeatedly an application which is running.
Now, another one came through is, can you switch off the power to the ACARs from the cockpit?
Well, that's a bit of a confused question, because ACARs is not a box with a power that you switch on and off. It's actually an application which is running. So it's like an app on your mobile phone.
Okay. So here's the big thing. In order for the pilot to be involved in this, the pilot has to figure out how to make the plane go completely dark. Not just how, why. Why are you doing that? If this is a suicidal pilot, you don't care. You're just going to take the plane down the moment something happens. So, I haven't heard anybody credible ever explain to me how you can make a plane go dark and why you would do that. Here's the first problem. Let's just assume that you can. Let's give the benefit of the doubt to the people that believe you can make a plane go dark from the cockpit, completely go dark or whatever it is. Why? What does that accomplish? That doesn't do anything. Radar doesn't stop you from being seen by radar. You can still be seen by radar. That's why Malaysia's radar still detected the plane. There's no magical cloaking button on the commercial airliner on the Boeing 777 that just stops radar from seeing you. Right? Oh, you turned off your flight radar. So what? That's suspicious. That's all. You get it? So why would someone even do that? It makes no sense at all. Now let's go back to it because I want to hear the explanation.
You can switch the power off, and of course then the app doesn't run. You can actually in the cockpit switch ACARs off. We have a screenshot where we show the ACARs manager page in the cockpit systems, and you can choose either VHF or satellite for the communication of these ACARs messages, and you can click both off if you want. But I think what the question is referring to is the SATCOM system, which is the satellite connection to ground. And yes, you can switch that off, not directly the SATCOM system, because that box is sitting in the back of the aircraft in an overhead compartment. But you can switch off the appropriate electrical buses. And we have a screenshot of the power management control panel and all the circuit breakers that you have in the overhead cockpit panels, a whole bunch of systems that you can switch off, and that means and pull a circuit breaker is another option. But you don't have to. The question was also asking, do you have to exit the cockpit and go into the mech under the cockpit? And there's an access with a panel in the floor and a ladder down into that area of the Boeing 777. And the answer is no. You can do all.
So what a terrible answer that was. Like, okay. The answer is no, you can't turn off the SDU, which is the computer that's managing the satellite recon system from the cockpit, because it's in the back of the plane. Okay, simple answer, no, you can't. Now, he doesn't say it like that because he needs to rationalize some weird situation where that thing's being turned off. So the rationalization he's explaining here is that the pilot is turning off all the circuit breakers and turning off all the power on the plane from the cockpit. Okay, I'm with you. So apparently they turned off all the power from the plane. Now, you know what's interesting about that? I'm just going to Google MH370 wired. Oh, top link. A startling simple theory about the missing Malaysian airliner jet. Let's read this, chat. Let's read this together. So just remember, he said, we're going to turn off all the electrical buses to make the plane go dark. That's what Richard Godfrey was just saying he thinks happened to the plane. Okay. A pilot with 20 years of experience provides the best explanation yet on what happened to MH370. Date, March 18th, 2014. So this was 10 days after the plane disappeared. Get ready for it. So basically, he says that it was a fire and that the plane was headed to Penang, which was the closest airport. He says the left turn is key. He was an experienced captain with 18,000 flight hours. Can I zoom in? Here we go. There we go. We old pilots were drilled to know that, what is the closest airport of a safe harbor while on cruise. Airports behind us, airports abeam us, and airports ahead of us. They're always in our head, always. So when I saw the left turn with a direct heading, I instinctively knew he was heading for an airport. He was taking a direct route to Kuala Langkawi, a 13,000-foot long airstrip. Now, this is where early on people believed they were going to Langkawi. Langkawi versus Penang, two different airports, both capable, I believe, of managing a Boeing 777. He knew he did not go back to Kuala Lumpur, which is the origin, because he knew he had to cross 8,000-foot ridges. He knew the terrain was friendlier towards Langkawi, which is closer. Okay. The loss of transponders and communications makes perfect sense in a fire. Are you ready? Oh, okay. Let's go like this. When I heard this, I immediately brought up Google Earth and searched for airports in their proximity. For me, the loss of transponders and communications makes perfect sense in a fire, and there most likely was an electrical fire. In the case of a fire, here it comes, chat, The first response is to pull the main buses and restore circuits one by one until you have isolated the bad one. If they pulled the buses, the plane would go silent. It probably was a serious event, and the flight crew was occupied with controlling the plane and trying to fight the fire. Aviate, navigate, and lastly, communicate is the mantra in such situations. Well, chat. Well. As they say, the tables, they have turned. So now you guys see that they're saying, oh, well, it turns out the theory that these guys are pushing that says that the pilot did it, it would look identical to a fire scenario. Identical. Now do you understand why I'm just dunking on these guys, saying you guys are going to realize it soon? I used to think, honestly, that some of these people were disinformation. I used to think that. How did they not figure this out? They must be getting paid to push fake shit. It turns out, no, sadly, no. Turns out humans are just kind of dumb. That's the sad part. Lost a lot of faith in humanity. But we're still chugging along, chat. We're still chugging along. And yeah, that's the crazy part, is it turns out the exact same thing where they're claiming, and what's their evidence for the pilot claiming that the pilot was doing this maliciously? None. There's no evidence the pilot was malicious or suicidal or whatever mindset you're trying to put them in. None. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary. He was in a communication 1 minute before the plane went dark. 1 minute. And he was totally calm and normal. If you're about to hijack an airplane and make it go dark in 1 minute, pretty unlikely you're just going to be super chill in your last communication. There's no evidence at all. And then they also claim that, well, he was avoiding radar, flying some weird path between radars. Guys, shut up. That's not how radar works at all. If you say anything stupid like that to me, just like fair warning, don't ever come to a debate with me and say something dumb like the pilot was flying between the radar zones. Guys, I don't know. You've been watching too many 90s movies. That's not how any of this works. That's not how radar works at all. Radar doesn't care about what zones you drew on a map. Okay? Jesus, chat. Oh my God. And then, of course, the most absurd one, which is you have to explain, why is he flying back to Penang or Langkawi, whichever it is, the closest airport to land a Boeing 777, whichever airport he's going to. Why is he going back to that airport? And literally the excuse, if you go back and look, I'm not going to attribute this to Godfrey or Jeff Wise or anyone else. They just, the people claimed that the pilot was born in Penang. So he was saying goodbye to his hometown. What? Come on, man. Grow up. If you seriously think that, you need to grow up. They were trying to land the plane. Okay? They were trying to land the plane. Now, we're actually since we're talking about the fire emergency event, that's one of the other theories that's out there. I think it's the most plausible theory by far. Every single witness supports the fire event, essentially. Some witnesses, what they saw is not perfectly matched, but in many cases, people either saw the plane on fire, saw the plane flying low. Mike McKay and Catherine T are the star witnesses that support the fire event. Now, going back to the video that I was showing you guys earlier, Mike McKay literally saw the plane start on fire when the plane first turned dark. I mean, that's one more. Richard Godfrey wishes that he had any evidence that good. Right here, when the plane is right there and the plane goes dark, Mike McKay sees the plane on fire, 100% sees the plane on fire. It had just rained. The refraction would have been absolutely perfect for Mike McKay to be able to see the plane at 300 miles away. Even though it seems impossible, he could see it because it's the ocean. Crazy. So we have a guy, and then we have Catherine T. When you can see Catherine T's boat in the back here. There's a little sign right here next to her boat. She sees the plane glowing orange with smoke coming out of the back of it, flying low with no power, no navigation lights. Two essential witnesses both corroborate a fire event. And we had multiple people that supported it. So I wanted to address that claim by Geoffrey Thomas about the disabling or turning off the power on the plane. Because I think the question people should be asking him is, why would a pilot do that? What does that accomplish? You didn't accomplish anything. Because when you realize that, you realize, oh, it was an emergency event. It was obviously a fire. Obviously a fire. Okay. What other evidence is there for the fire? There's a Boeing 777 fire suppression device that washed up in the Maldives around March 25th, a few weeks after the plane disappeared. It must have been empty. Looks exactly like a Boeing 777 fire suppression device. Would indicate that it fell out of the plane, thrown out of the plane, something like that, washed ashore in the Maldives. The problem with the fire event. Where is the debris? Where's the plane crash? How did you cover up a fire event? This is also what people were advocates, ironically, for the suicide or the South Indian Ocean narrative. They say about the fire event. Well, same thing goes for you, buddy. Where is the plane anywhere on the earth for anything? So let's just pull in the shoot down scenario right now as well. If you believe the plane was shot down, where? Shooting the plane down is a bigger hassle to cover up than over the water. At least if it crashes into the water, you might have a relatively small area. Crashing and you shot down in the sky and the debris flying everywhere, no chance can you cover it up. Debris is going to be tens of miles. It's going to be people's houses. No way. And if it's over the ocean, then it'll be very, very visible. So that's the problem with the shoot down. So what are we led to believe? Well, we have to believe the plane did not crash. MH370 did not crash. Right? That's what we have to conclude. There was no shoot down. The plane didn't crash somewhere. We would have found a debris field. So it must not have crashed. So what else could have happened? Could have been hijacked. Well, problem with hijacking is this is too sophisticated. It's too sophisticated. No, actually, this is good. This will flow well. So it's too sophisticated. So what does this then lead us to logically conclude? Well, could be a state-sponsored operation. Could be a state-sponsored. I'll come back to this debris point as well. I should have started with it, honestly. I'll come back to this debris and address that in a minute. Actually, no, I'm going to do it right now because for the fire event. Okay, so there was some debris that was found, but it was found in Africa. The debris in Africa contraindicates the satellite pings in the South Indian Ocean. Two opposite parts of the world. Zero debris found over here in Africa or in Australia. Zero debris found here, but you're saying that you're searching right over here next to Australia. Instead, they find debris over here in Africa. All the debris over here in Africa. And the currents flow this way into Australia. They flow like up and around. And yet no debris was found over here in Australia? That doesn't make any sense. All the 10, actually only 3 pieces were confirmed to be part of the plane. So the problem with the debris is that if you believe that debris is from MH370, then the plane didn't crash in the South Indian Ocean. Had to have gone down somewhere near to Africa, much near. Because just statistically speaking, if I have 10 pieces of debris, Even I believe that somehow the ocean currents, I'm just going to defy the ocean currents and go straight to Africa. Some pieces of debris should have washed ashore in Australia. It's much closer. Some pieces. And yet none did. None. Not one flotation device. So here's, if you are a true understander of the evidence of MH370, you have to realize this huge issue. Either the debris is fake, planted, whatever, not MH370, or the satellite pings are fake. Those satellite pings, those must have been fake. That's not where the plane went. The plane went somewhere else, not the South Indian Ocean. Now, I know where I stand. 3 failed searches later in the South Indian Ocean, finding nothing, no black boxes, no pings, nothing. For 11 years, search, find nothing. The pings must be fake. And something happened closer to Africa, to where the plane went. If you look at the ocean currents again, you find out what's here right in the middle, where the ocean currents flow right over here to Africa. Oh, Diego Garcia military base. So I want to point out a couple other theories. The operation theory, government operation theory, government hijacking, whatever you want to call it, abduction, and the remote control theories. Okay, these are 2 more theories about the plane. Field McConnell is, I believe, the one that made the remote control, and Captain Dan Hanley has also talked about it, the remote controlling theory. But you realize this was probably some type of operation, but we also have evidence of a fire, so possibly it could be both. Maybe the fire was intentionally started. Maybe it was an operation. Maybe it was an operation and the fire was also intentionally related to that. And then this brings us down to only 3 candidates. You can pretty much cut out most countries immediately. Essentially, you're left with Russia, China, and the United States. You might say Iran, North Korea. No. Realize, guys, that we have the benefit of hindsight 11 years later, where we can look back now at it and say there's nothing that would ever even have us believe that those countries would be capable of something like this. And we need whoever did this needs to be able to deceive the media. They have to be able to deceive the media. Oh boy. I think I know who it is, but I don't want to say it out loud, chat. Okay, so let's review the evidence. Well, what did the United States say? United States said they would pledge their assistance to help out with the search, and then 1 month later, they stopped helping. President Obama went to go help. President Obama waited 10 days to make any statements about the plane. Then he went to Malaysia. First time any American president's gone to Malaysia. He went there the next month. He briefly mentioned the plane, and then never spoke about MH370 ever again. Wow. Let me just repeat that. Fact check me. President Obama, first time he spoke about MH370 was like 10 days, 11 days after the plane disappeared. It was the first time he even mentioned it. Then he goes to Malaysia the next month. First time in the United States president ever gone to Malaysia, basically. Has gets asked about the plane twice in back-to-back days. Briefly says something about helping out. United States stops helping with the search. President Barack Obama never mentions MH370 publicly ever again. Okay, what did the other countries say? Well, China, they hacked the Malaysian government the next day. China hacked the Malaysian government on March 9th, 2014, with a sophisticated social engineering hack that said, "We found the plane, click here." And they clicked, and then they got access to their databases. And what did they steal? You can find this in this publicly available in the news articles. What did they steal? China stole the crisis meeting minute notes about MH370 and classified information about the plane. Okay, 2 questions. Why is there classified information about the plane on March 9th, 2014? One day after the plane disappeared, how could something be classified about a missing airliner? And 2, what was China trying to find? What was China trying to find? So this rules China out. If you're the one who stole the plane, you don't need to hack anybody. You're trying to get away. If you pulled this off, you're just trying to get away. If you're the detective, you're trying to hack people to figure out what happened to the plane. Most likely, the classified information is classified communications with the plane. It's almost certainly classified communications with the plane. They classified certain communications with the plane that would have exposed that it was an emergency event and that the United States was involved. And so basically they had to erase anything that would have implicated the United States in any way, shape, or form in being connected to the plane. So all of those communications between the United States and MH370, all classified. So China knows what happened. They know what happened. What can they do about it? Nothing. Nothing. If you have orb technology, you do whatever you want. What are they going to do? You do nothing, or we orb you too, bitch. You going to do something else, China? You got some orbs? No, you don't have some orbs. Didn't think so. That's what I thought. Little bitch. Okay. So, Russia. What did Russia say? Russia, a weird report comes out, which has extremely sketchy, let's say, sourcing. But I mean, I don't know who would come up with this weird report claiming to be a GRU report, which is Russia's like FBI, that claims that they don't know why the United States Navy abducted MH370, specifically calls out the United States Navy. Specifically says they were tracking this operation to steal the plane, and there was something that was put on the plane, and China was going to hijack the plane themselves. Like everybody was going to hijack the plane. Everybody was planning to hijack MH370, and I guess the United States did it better. They diverted it with some magical orbs, right? This is like, I mean, this is the stretching the word diverted to its maximum potential here with this one. We diverted the plane, guys. Is that what you think happened right here? This is what, when people say what happened to the plane, I should say it got diverted. I think maybe that's just, should I just talk like that now? Should I just talk like a NPC? Yeah. So Russia pointed the finger at the U.S. Navy. Well, what did Malaysia's prime minister, the one before and after, the one that Obama was meeting with? He said that the CIA knows what happened to the plane. His advisor, a guy named Matthias Chang, look him up. Google, search my post for a guy named Matthias Chang. Matthias Chang was advisor to Prime Minister Mahathir, probably the most beloved prime minister in all of Malaysian history. And Matthias Chang was saying some crazy shit. He was saying that Malaysia was given some evidence under sealed order that they not reveal it about what happened to the plane. What the hell does that mean? Matthias Chang was trying to get the podcast social media people to pay attention to him, saying that he knew what happened and it was so big that it would change the world. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially. That's pretty wild. So people out there probably know the truth. Now, On the operation front, okay, so we ruled out a shoot down, mostly. If it was a controlled shoot down around a specific military base, maybe you could cover it up. But even then, somebody would leak a satellite image of you cleaning up a burning 777, you know? So I don't think we can do that part. Remote control. Remote control. So the idea is that the United States government used these AWACS, these spy planes, to jam the plane and to remote control it to Diego Garcia. Could they do that? Theoretically, I think so. It just seems really, really complicated. So let's make it more complicated. So they add some orbs to that theory where you can teleport the plane, and now you just shave down the distance. So now you don't really have to remote control it that far. So I think there could actually be crossover theories where in those videos, do we know that the pilot's actually in control? Several people have messaged me and said that looking at the thermal, they feel like nobody inside was alive. But at the same time, I'm not convinced you could see the heat signatures of the people from that distance in the thermal. So also, if somebody was faking it, I feel like they would have faked it with little fake looking heat signatures of people inside of there as well. Just pointed that out. So remote controlling is interesting too, because here's something that often goes overlooked for the people in support of the remote control, and also devastating to the pings. When Captain Dan Hanley looked at the pings, he pointed out that when the computer turns back on, it looks like that could have been consistent with when these AWACS are like taking control of the plane, hijacking it basically. Also makes you wonder too, then how much control does the United States government have over the information coming off that plane? And can they jam it? Possibly. Another thing he pointed out was that the last two pings from the plane are like 9 minutes apart or 10 minutes apart, something like that. Where before that, they were like an hour apart or 2 hours apart, some hour apart, I think. And why was that last one like 10 minutes? Because it's consistent with the engine turning off. Consistent with the engine turning off and the plane having its engine turned off at Diego Garcia. That's what they say. I have to be honest, chat. After what we've just talked about tonight with the main evidence, it's hard to understand how anyone could think the plane crashed or was shot down. And now this guy's going, well, the biggest thing is, why are there two? If you believe the pings are real, somehow those pings are real, why are there the last two pings only 9 minutes apart? But the engine was just being turned off. What if, like, you get your normal ping and then the engine is being turned off under normal procedure? So therefore it sends a ping, because that's one of the triggers to send a ping, is that your engine's turned off. Like, hey, here's the end of our journey. But if it was a crash, you're not going to have that happen in a crash scenario, only under controlled shutdown of the engine. Pretty interesting thought. I personally think all the pings are bullshit, but to me, that's powerful evidence in support of a non-shoot down, non-crash scenario, in support of a scenario where the plane landed somewhere. Okay. Thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it. And on Friday, guys, if you're not wondering why I'm not going into all the evidence about the videos, on Friday, we're going to go into all the detailed evidence about the MH370 videos. I want to just go through all of the other theories tonight relatively quickly. Now, other operation. The other operation theory is the theory that I subscribe to, which is the free-scale semiconductor engineers on board this plane. There's 20 of them on board the plane. They did hold a patent for maximizing the number of dies on a wafer, which now that I've been learning about microchips, pretty spicy. Not going to lie. Might actually be the reason why they were taken out. Anything related to microchips basically could be the reason. Microchips are the future. We knew they were the future. This company was tied to U.S. aerospace and defense. It's clearly why we conducted this operation. the most plausible theory around the operation outside of like remote controlling scenarios is those engineers, and that 8 of them were Chinese nationals, and they're working for an American company, and they're flying to Beijing. So what's the story? The story that paints is one where they're defecting to China. They're not coming back. It's a one-way journey, if you know what I'm saying. They're going to China, and they're never coming back. So that would mean they're taking either the technology or their intellectual property in their minds, right? And in this case, the United States government knows that they're planning on doing that, and they've got a little trap set for them. Oh, you think you're going to China? Boom, fire starts. Okay, now we're going this way. And now U.S. spy planes intercept the plane. Now you're going to listen to us, follow us wherever we tell you to go. And now they follow you wherever you tell them to go, to say our rendezvous point. Some orbs come flying out of the ground. Goodbye. And then from there, I don't know, guys. Plane just goes backwards, gets to Diego Garcia. I don't know how they do it, but they pulled it off. Zapped the plane out of the sky. They pulled off the crime, and then you have to control the media. So if it's an operation, you have to also be able to control the media. The United States government is the only one who can control the media. Make sure, and then when I say control the media, make sure they don't ask any good questions. There was basically only one time where I think I saw any good questions ever be asked. And here it is. I found it. And watch how Dianne Feinstein, God rest her soul in hell. Watch how she shoots down.
I wanted to ask you about these satellite pictures, because there's a lot of question when you see them. They're kind of fuzzy. You can't really tell. Here's one now. You look down, you can see stuff in the ocean. I want to compare it to something else, which is a satellite picture of the bin Laden compound in Pakistan. Wow. That you can see trucks, you can see housing. Now, I'm told a lot of this has to do with the angle of the satellite, that you get blurry the more out of angle the satellite is. But there are a lot of people who don't believe that the U.S. and others with sophisticated technology can't actually see better than the pictures we're seeing.
Well, I think it depends on the satellite and the resolution that's provided by the satellite and how sophisticated the satellite is. I'm not going to go into what we have or what we don't have, but I think what I just said suffices.
No,
Can we assume?
It doesn't suffice. What you just said doesn't suffice at all. It's a pretty simple question. How could the United States not see the debris field of a Boeing 777 anywhere on planet Earth? Simple question. No one on this earth can answer this question. None of you out there can answer this question, because the answer is they couldn't. They would have had to have seen it. No matter what happened to it, they would have had to have seen it. We know the United States knows what happened to the plane. If it hit the ocean, they have multiple systems, not just the surveillance systems, not just SIBRs that would see the plane explode, but also the ocean surveillance system, sound surveillance system, SOSUS, also would have heard it. So Feinstein, keep going.
That the U.S. does know more or can see more than we're seeing as relates to this plane?
Not necessarily. I would answer that way.
Who answered the question? I've never in my mind thought, no, not necessarily. I would answer the question in that way. I'm not asking you how you would answer the question. Just answer it. What are you talking about? Not necessarily. Of course they can see more. Are you kidding me? God, you know what, chat? I'm so sick of national security. I'm so sick of it because it makes us gaslight ourselves. National security does. We just gaslight ourselves like, no, in the United States, they couldn't maybe not necessarily see Boeing 777 crashed in the ocean with our surveillance system that can see everything on the whole world. I love how they show the image of the bin Laden raid where you can like literally see people like reading books, like in such high resolution video. And then they're just wondering, like, why can't we find a huge plane? What's going on here? Wild. Okay, let's go back. Actually, yeah, there was one more part of this Richard Godfrey thing I actually want to go to real quick in support of the fire, okay? Actually, I don't even really want to listen to him, but I just want to show you that I believe that the satellite pings are fake. I believe this debris is from MH370. I think he shows some more, right? Yeah. I mean, look at this Rolls-Royce engine. Wait, I'm not even sharing the right screen. Look at this Rolls-Royce engine cowling. I mean, that is clearly a Rolls-Royce engine cowling from a Boeing 777 from the engine. No question. But the thing is, look at this right here. Look at that. Does that look like a plane crashed? Is that how an engine cowling rips off from a plane crashing into the ocean? JK Philly fan who may be in the viewership right now, friend of, actually, he's a Inner Circle MH370X associate. JK Philly fan researched all of the debris that was found. There's this report that was done on it. And multiple pieces of the debris show that they were pulled apart. Pulled. Like 5 different pieces used the word pulled, as if they were pulled apart when they looked at the rips on them. The rips don't look as if a plane had crashed. They seem to indicate, and this is, of course, somewhat speculative, but any type of research like this is, when you're looking at that potentially the plane was disassembled, ripped apart, and the pieces were thrown in the ocean. And that would explain why we only found a few pieces, and it would explain why we found them in Diego Garcia, or found them in Africa. They were potentially thrown in the ocean in Diego Garcia and washed ashore in Africa. Or plane was maybe shot down there and somebody tried to clean it up and they missed a few pieces. But the other thing I want to point out is if you look at the debris as well, I believe at least 2 pieces, maybe more, have clear scorch marks on them. Clear scorch marks on the debris. Let me see if I can find it. And it gets explained away as resin. Resin? Resin from what? From being in the ocean? Ocean resin? The resin theory has never made any sense to me. I'm digging through right now to try to see if I can find the image of the burnt debris for you guys. Because when you look at the image of the burnt debris, it's obviously burnt. Oh, found it. Here we go, chat. Lucky you. How do I... Oh, does Discord not let you do that thing anymore? Well, why are you doing this to me, Discord? Okay, here we go. Open a browser. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm a mess tonight. Okay, window. Here we go. Actually, let's go with this. Okay, there you go. Chat, I don't know about you. I'm not a debrisologist or whatever you got to be. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, though. That's clearly a burn marks, right? Like right here, where this thing in the middle here is like clearly melted. Those are burn marks, chat. How many smokers do I have out there, chat? Who are my smokers? Like this is clearly burnt right now. Here, there's another piece too. There's 2. Look, 2 pieces. Look at this one. This one is the most obvious burn marks I've ever seen in my whole life. This is a burnt piece of airplane. And this honeycomb pattern you're looking at here, This honeycomb pattern that you're looking at is distinctive of of Boeing. This is a Boeing honeycomb pattern. So this is almost certainly debris from MH370. And look at all the burn marks. Look at this burn mark right here they've got circled. Look how black that is. They're trying to claim that's localized resin from what? Being in the ocean? Now this is a burnt ass piece of debris. Should be white. It's brown. So I'm surprised that gets overlooked, because that's even more evidence that it was clearly a fire. But then the problem is, where's the plane? So you almost have to combine the theories that we've looked at here. The last couple of theories are the more outlandish ones. The black hole theory, for example.
What if it was hijacking or terrorism or mechanical failure or pilot error? But what if it was something fully that we don't really understand? A lot of people have been asking about that, about black holes and on and on and on, and all of these conspiracy theories. Let's look at this. Noah says, what else can you think about black hole, Bermuda Triangle? And then Deji says, just like the movie Lost. And of course, they're also referencing the Twilight Zone, which has a very similar plot. That's what people are saying. I know it's preposterous, but is it preposterous, you think, Mary?
Well, it is. A black hole is about, you know, a small black hole would suck in our entire universe, so we know it's not that. Bermuda Triangle is often weather, and Lost is a TV show. So I think I always like things for which there's data, history, crunch the numbers. So for me, those aren't there, but I think it's wonderful that the whole world is trying to help with their theories, and I absolutely love the theories.
You know what there's data for? The United States government doing horrible black operations. There's a lot of data for that, historically speaking. They've done it a lot. And it's kind of weird that people are like unwilling to consider that. They're just like completely have an aversion to it. We've pretty much gone through every possible theory. And we are at the point now where obviously we have to be considering even outlandish theories. Aliens taking the plane, Twilight Zone shit, all other dimensions. We should be considering that type of stuff. Now, not very seriously, because we have some debris that was found related to the plane. We have cell phones that were still ringing for days after the plane. Cell phones still ringing had to be discarded by everybody who thinks the plane went down. Because how are these phones still ringing? Where are they? That plane crashed somewhere. You're not pretty unlikely that you found the cell phones and they're still working. So, but we have to consider all possible theories that are out there, even including the black hole theory, Bermuda Triangle stuff, right? We're in that zone 11 years later. That's where we're at right now. Simple as that. So when two videos show up, and just to be clear, guys, I'm just the guy that's promoting these videos because I realized early on that they were real. And then started making connections that I never thought I'd have to people that are like in the know, who nobody broke any laws, but only helped confirm my suspicions that, yes, this is real. We do really have this. That's all I am, man. That's all I've ever been. I'm not an operative or anything of any CIA or anything like that, or a foreign agent or anything. I'm not somebody that was sent in to cause discord in this slow drip UFO plan. I just don't like it. Because that's who I am as a person. I just don't like you, slow drip UFO woke disclosure people. I don't like you. I don't like you because you're lying. I don't like you because you're treating people like slaves. I don't like you. Yeah. I don't like you, basically. It doesn't have anything to do with being a Putin operative or anything like that. Okay. The last couple of theories then would be the plane going into a volcano. Why not? And the plane is somehow levitating over the jungle in Cambodia in 2023. You know what? Sure. We'll throw it in there. Throw it in there. Somebody saw an image on Google Earth and it looked like a Boeing plane, but it wasn't even a Boeing 777. But you know what? We're not going to let the facts get in the way of a good theory. Okay. Let me take a look and see what else I need to do here tonight. I did want to point out the hypocrisy now, though, of this new pilot. Oh, there's a new witness says he saw the plane. These are the same people that ignored 19 witnesses that all indicate it was a fire. 19, 20 maybe. So for them to come being like, oh, this witness definitely saw the plane, they proved me right. I'm just going to ignore every single other witness that exists out there that all corroborate a different story. Seems a little hypocritical to me. Yeah, and there was something else I had put here. I was gonna, go into Godfrey, but the truth is, like, I don't really feel like being adversarial towards people anymore. I mean, I'm still gonna do it, but like I was telling you guys before, this is gonna be a marathon, not a sprint. It's gonna take people a while to come to terms with the fact that these videos, I'm gonna show them again, one at a time, are real, and they're gonna have to fail a lot until they can come to terms. Where is it? Here it is. God. Okay. I don't know where. Oh, there it is. Okay. They're gonna have to come to terms a lot with the reality to realize that there's no way somebody faked this. So it could take a while, guys. It's already been a year and a half. I told you guys it could take a long, long time for people to accept it. But here's the crazy truth about it. I'll give you guys some inspirational stuff to come along with this for tonight, guys. Is that one, I think that we pushed humanity forward. Like, you could maybe argue that MH370X already pushed humanity closer to full disclosure by decades already, compared to where we would have been otherwise. Just based on what we've been able to push out there and explain to people about plasma and orbs and this kind of technology. Just like we've been able to do a lot with exposing this type of stuff to people, and done more. The other thing is done more than really anybody has been able to do, because when you look at those videos and you realize, wait, you're telling me that's real? You realize, boy, we are really far behind. Like the public is, like the public is super, super, super far behind. I think this technology was not going to get disclosed to us for like another 50 or 100 years, if that. Like, they were literally just planning on kicking this can down the road for a long, long time. Not just telling us all of a sudden about we can teleport stuff now. Right? When you look at this as well, you can tell that this is an operation. Why are they filming? Everybody asks, why are they filming? They're filming because this is an operation. Why is the heat signature on the orb spinning? The heat signature is spinning because they're stabilizing the plasma. The spinning motion actually is how they stabilize these balls of plasma. So you see that heat signature spinning? The orb itself is spinning because that's how they can actually propel themselves. They can actually use the motion of the plasma as a propulsion mechanism. Now, I think they have a laser inside there, but they can also just use magnetohydrodynamics. When you watch the beginning of this, look at this. This is an operation right here. You're only going to see a screenshot like this in an operation. I want to point something else out as well. This is a story that we're seeing right here, right off the bat. Right off the bat. You're seeing a story right here. This isn't just somebody's like, oh, here's a random UFO video I spliced into a random video. Could be any video. This isn't just any video. That's MH370. This is a General Atomics drone. This is a camera perched underneath the wing right here. And this, the distance between this drone and this plane is an operation. If this was made from whole cloth, as Jeff Wise delusionally thinks, and I really, really hope he watches this part. Please send this to him. There's no way that somebody's going to be able to come up with this. They're going to have to create a storyboard where they say, okay, scene 1, show a shot of the under of the drone, of the General Atomics drone. Like, do you understand how many details this is for somebody to just come up with? Oh, and then have the plane coming in on the left side of the screen, close distance where it looks like it's an operation. Are you starting to realize how obviously real these videos are now? Nobody created a storyboard to create 2 hoax videos in perfect synchronization with a real world event where multiple witnesses corroborate what we're seeing in the video. I don't know, like, how is this so hard for people to accept? Listen to those words and put them on repeat on what I just told you. Catherine T was right where these coordinates are. There's coordinates in the video. Catherine T was there. She saw the plane on fire, glowing orange with no navigation lights. She saw it. China Times reported a Mayday intercepted communication from the U.S. Navy communicating with MH370 of the plane disintegrating and attempting emergency landing. We're seeing it in the videos right before they orbed the plane. You really think somebody faked that? How do you even fake a thermal gradient heat map video? You think you can make a fake thermal video convincing even now, today? Even a 1-minute one? Go make a 1-minute thermal video that can convince anybody it's real. Anybody. Let alone the clouds in the background. Look at the clouds in the background. Nobody is faking this. There's nothing like this on the internet. You realize when there's nothing like something, it's probably just real. It's probably just real. Look at the camera shake when it goes underneath the wake of the plane. Look at it again. Look at the camera shake as it goes underneath the wake of the plane, which in what is clearly an operation. See that shake? Look at the shake increase as they zoom in. The more they zoomed in, now the shake is more, right? Because it's zoomed. The more zoom there is, the more the shake is. Now the shake is really bad, even though it's really technically only a little bit. Okay. Okay, chat. Any other questions out there? I'm going to go through the chat here for a few minutes. Just appreciate you guys again. Have I been in touch with Randall Carlson? I'm probably going to do an interview with him or request an interview with him. I've just been busy doing my own thing. But yes, I think I will talk to Randall Carlson. If he's interested in talking about plasmas and potentially how to stabilize plasmas, stuff like that, I think it would be a fun conversation. Any updates on getting closer to Edward Lynn? No, I haven't contacted him since I did a few weeks ago. I've just been letting it chill. I mean, what more is there for me to do? I guess that's really ultimately the question. I think the answer is that I was thinking about it yesterday, actually, to get him to sign a piece of paper that says I'm right. Just like nebulously. Like, or yeah, like, you know, doesn't admit that he doesn't admit to anything about the videos, just says that I'm right. You know, something where he can admit that he leaked the videos without going to prison. Something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you for that donation. Deniable plausibility. Could Bermuda Triangle disappearance be from orbs? Everybody's wondering it. Everybody's wondering it. Thank you for that donation. I appreciate it. Okay, guys. Thank you for watching tonight, guys. I appreciate it. Friday, I'm going to go through all the evidence, have a new updated evidence review stream. I'm redoing the entire evidence list. We're going to kind of organize it into stuff that's more applicable so that when we give it to the AARO, that when they give it to Congress, that it's pretty undeniable that it's worthy of investigating. So that's what's coming next, guys. Any other questions? Dark and bright flashes. I don't know what that is. Bifield Brown effect is definitely awesome. It's huge. Have I been in Joe Rogan's DMs? No, I don't DM people like that. Rarely. Sometimes I'll DM people like one time, but they don't respond. No, I'm not one of those people. Randall Carlson from Minnesota. Really? That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to use that to hopefully get an interview with him then. That would be big. The thing about Eddie Lynn is, like, he changed his name 2 months. Realized that, like, in October of 2023, after I identified him, I'm sitting there, I'm going, do I just, like, say it publicly? Or do I try to get in touch with him behind the scenes? And I realized right away there was no way I was going to find this guy behind the scenes, like, unless he wanted to be found. And I was like, I'm just going to say his name publicly. I was like, the best thing I can do is say his name publicly. And this is why it's so important to be transparent about everything that you do in an investigation. And this example is perfectly how it paid off. Because I was transparent, because I immediately said his name right after I was confident that I found him. Now we have proof that there is a 2 to 3 month gap between me saying that Edward C. Lynn leaked the videos, he was on this spy plane and all this stuff, making him famous, and him putting in a name change request to legally change his name. Instead of suing me or just calling me and telling me I'm not the guy, he legally changed his name, because now everybody who Googles Edward C. Lynn is going to realize that Edward C. Lynn is the guy that leaked the MH370 videos. Can't be associated to that. Did that. Wild. I mean, that is as damning as it gets. That's as damning. Literally, should I call this guy who's trying to call me? I'm trying to call Edward Lynn to get the story straight. He won't pick up, and he won't call me back, and he won't call me. Instead, he's going to legally change his name. This is years after he's already been out of prison, too. Nobody knew Edward Lynn was until I made him famous. Nobody did. No one had any clue who he was. So, and I'm not saying that as like I deserve the credit. I'm saying, even though I do, I'm saying that in terms of like, there's no reason for him to change his name until after I start saying it. Yeah, double down. There are some other interesting passengers, but nobody that strikes you as, hey, we need to commit a covert operation on this airplane kind of passengers. You know what I'm saying? Bye, Liz. Have a good night. Hope you have a great one, Liz. Okay, guys. I think that's it for tonight. I'm looking to see if there's any other last questions. It's not. Here's the thing, Jordan. This is the thing that anybody who thinks they're defying the laws of physics needs to understand. They're not. They're not defying the laws of physics. You know what? This is actually one of my hot takes that you just reminded me of right now. I've been making a list of hot takes. Where is it? Holy shit. I'm glad we don't have to reinvent physics, because I'm not doing all that shit. Turns out we don't have to reinvent physics at all. The amazing part about zero-point energy in the theory is that it sits right on top of physics, and all the people that invented the very physics that you're talking about right here, they all believed in the ether. Like, all of them, except for maybe Einstein. But like all the rest of them, all the electrical engineering legends, all believed in the ether. All believed in it. That's how we know it works, because it fit into all their models when they were building out the theories. We just threw it out for no reason. No reason at all. That's the crazy part. And that's why this is going to be so hard for people to begin to accept this, because it doesn't just, it exposes all of our weaknesses in one. That's what's crazy about those videos, is that the more you start looking at them, you're like, holy shit, this is a lie too. You're like, okay, I knew the government was corrupted, right? I knew the government was corrupted. I didn't know they had hyper advanced technology. Okay. Then you're like, oh, but wait. So there's like a whole branch of physics, and somehow all of academia on planet Earth hasn't found it and figured it out, but the government has? Yep. Turns out all of academia is fraudulent as well. They should have all figured this out a long time ago. Instead, they're just completely dysfunctional. They have nobody to blame but themselves. Most people in academia, most people are basically doing nothing, getting paid to do absolutely nothing, except for wear a degree and pretend like they're smart. That's the true harsh reality of the situation. So it turns out media's fake, government's fake, academia's fake too. It's a hard-ass pill to swallow. And we have super advanced technology. Oh, shit, Chad. That's our world. Sometimes I do kind of wish I was Cypher and could just, plug back in. Be like, you know what? Peace. Just going to plug back in. What happened to the bodies? Good question. Incinerator? I don't know. They probably have some type of disposal mechanism on Diego Garcia. I honestly don't even want to ask that question. That's the most morbid one. It's a good question, though. It really is. I would imagine incinerator. You don't throw them in the ocean, I'll tell you that. You don't throw them in the ocean. Or if they lived, you let them go back home, and then they just can never talk about it ever again. But I don't think anybody made it. Winston Alexander, thank you very much for that huge dono. I appreciate you. Thank you. We will keep up the pressure. Have you thought about physics? Only every day. Only every single day. Yeah, and I want to make microchips. I shared that one video of the tiny microchip stuff. Like, that's what, like, you guys realize that when we talk about quantum, like, we're already there. Publicly, we're like practically there. We just have to get our understanding up to speed. That's what we have to do. Oh, a couple more donos. What can we do to help get you on Joe Rogan? I don't know. Not much. Just share the work. Just share the work, share the ideas. It's clear that Joe Rogan has been influenced by this movement and the science that we've pushed out there. He's asked a lot of questions that clearly come from our line of thinking, which is awesome. But I don't like to press people. I think I just saw Joe Rogan just had Ian Carroll on. I think Ian Carroll's a fan. More and more people, like, I'll get brought up and people will, kind of support me and be like, no, he's legit. I get it though. Like, it's the stuff that I'm saying something that's so far out there that even the most hardcore people who are awake are going, wait, really? Really? Yeah, science, she's a bitch, chat. Distance is an illusion. Remember that. Movement and distance are an illusion. That's what we learned when we were watching Eric Lathwaite, when he was showing how a wave works. If you really look at the wave's not actually moving like this. Each electron is just going like this. And it forms a wave. So what does that mean? The distance and the travel is an illusion. Nothing's really actually moving. Kind of a weird thing to think about. Might be real, though. Holographic principle. Simulation theory. Sophia, what was the name of the engineer you really loved, and you could have almost grasped his warm soul? He was speaking about fusion in the 50s. Tom Bearden, maybe? Tom Bearden. Salvatore Pais. Probably Tom Bearden, I'm guessing. I'll just play a clip for you. Just for you, Sophia. Thank you very much for that donation. Then we're gonna log off after that, I think. I have Bearden videos under it too because I have so many. How about this one?
The generator powered the external circuit. It doesn't. It does not power it at all. All it does is we twist the crank on the generator, the shaft, to turn the shaft, and that forms a magnetic field inside the generator, and that energy in that magnetic field dissipates itself upon the internal charges to force the positive charges in one direction and negative charges in the other and make that dipole, and that's all the generator does. It doesn't add 1 watt to the power line. All the coal, all the oil, all the dams ever built, all the nuclear fuel rods ever consumed, never added 1 single watt to the power line. All they did was keep rebuilding the dipole that we have designed the silly circuit to destroy faster than we can power the load.
I don't even care if that was him or not, but I just love that video. It's basically saying we don't know how power works. We don't even know how energy works. Last question from N. Do you think any of the passengers are still alive? It's possible. If so, very few, and they'll never talk. They're either living on Diego Garcia or in witness protection. But that brings up the last point, which is that a lot of these people are never going to talk. It turns out it's way easier to keep people silent because even if they wanted to talk, they wouldn't have an avenue. It's not like you just get a platform to go on CNN and tell your story. And if you do go say something, you're putting yourself in danger. So I just want you guys to consider that aspect of it, because I think a lot of people just think that, well, if this was real, people would be blabbing about it and what have you. Some are, and they get discredited or silenced or their lives destroyed. And others are smart enough to stay quiet. A lot are smart enough to stay quiet. Quite the world we live in. Okay, chat, Friday, all evidence review stream, guys. Let's get that AARO thing done. Let's make a difference. I want to die in a world where we already have warp drives, and then I will be a happy person, and I will leave humanity in your guys' hands after that. Have a great night, MH370X. I love you guys. Peace out. We're going to go with, an oldie but a goodie.
Planes were meant to fly, planes they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying, I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes they're meant to fly, planes they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. They'll leave behind more than I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. Planes they're meant to fly, planes they ain't supposed to fall from the sky. But if they do, they'll leave behind more than a piece or two. Planes just be flying, I know you think I'm lying. The USA, they be hiding the truth, and I ain't buying. They'll leave behind more than a piece or two.